back. Well, some of us are back.
Oh man, you caught me in the middle of me dancing.
It is Sunday, July 16th, 2023, and you are listening to episode 20 of Black Box Signal. I am your host, as always, Chase Johnson, and Brandon is out in the field this week at a concert, which I'm kind of jealous because there's a few bands that I want to see at that concert.
Honestly, he told me about it too. I'm kind of jealous myself.
Yeah. But we are rejoined this week. Seems like whenever we have a break, he just shows up. We had a month-long break last time, and he was on the last episode after a break. And, you know, we had a little bit of break because I was sick. But Dustin Miller, we got you back. How's it going, man?
Going well. I appreciate you for finally unlocking and opening up the closet doors and allowing me to come out.
Yep.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Yep, he saw his shadow, or didn't see his shadow, which means he's allowed to come back on the show. He saw his shadow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, non-games, what have you been up to, man? I know you've had a lot of stuff going on recently with life and since last time you've been on.
So, wedding planning, working, voice still like working on the voice acting gig.
I'm trying to remember on the last episode that you were on, which was a while ago. Did you talk about that you were working on the demo? I think then.
So that was May. So yeah, I was definitely working on it. I was in the middle. I don't know if I talked about it, but I was definitely at the time like working on the actual demo reel of it. But since then, I've recorded it and I have it.
Nice.
And right now, I just need to get some headshots. But headshots cost a good amount of money, and I don't have that good amount of money right now.
I hear you.
Yeah.
We work at the same place, so.
Yeah.
As I said last week, I was sick with my usual sickness. Hopefully this will be the last time. Fingers crossed. I got an appointment with a specialist. Yay! I'm old. That's all it comes down to. I don't really have much else to talk about though, so we might as well just get right into games. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, well, we will start with I actually did jump in and watch you play a little bit of this on stream, and it looks really fun. You've been playing Only Up. Yeah.
So, I'm sure other people have like seen like a crap ton of other like big name streamers play it. If you haven't, think Getting Over with Bennett Foddy that came out like 10, 15 years ago, but 3D, and it's just a straight up platformer.
You know what it kind of reminded me of a little bit, even though the mechanics there's a little bit of a different mechanic in it. It reminded me of Grow Home. Do you remember the game Grow Home? Bit. Where you grow that beanstalk and try to climb as high as you can?
Yeah.
It kind of made me, or at least reminded me of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, it's definitely one of those games that's meant to test your patience, because as you get higher, you have moments where like what you need to walk on is like super thin, or just like you got to constantly make jumps to like post like inch diameter post, and it's definitely made me angry a couple times.
I saw the time where you like you responded to something to me in chat, and then you fell a bunch, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was just
that definitely
happened.
Question.
But yeah, I could see it being a fun stream game for sure.
It is. It's definitely like, I feel like I can get a little bit more engaged with the game versus just like kicking back and playing like a game that actually has a story that's meant to keep people engaged. Where this game is like, I can be the engaging part while I just get angry at a video game.
Yeah, for sure. What is it? What are you playing it on? PC?
PC.
Yeah. Is it just on PC right now?
It's on Steam. I don't know. It might be on other consoles. I'm seeing it on Steam. Nope, just Microsoft Windows. So yeah, it's only on the computer right now.
Okay. And then I just threw this in here because I've been playing a lot in my downtime, because I always say said before the pod, because of kids, sometimes I only get like 15 minutes, and that's it. So I've been jumping back in with checking back in with Session. They just released a bunch of new stuff for it relatively recently that I haven't check back in on. So I reinstalled it on my PS5. If you don't know, Session is a skateboarding simulator, kind of in the vein of Skate, but even harder. Where like, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been so long since I played Skate. Skate was always like each stick controls a foot, right?
Hmm.
And it's the left stick's your front foot and the right stick's your back foot, right?
Yes, I believe so.
In Session, the left stick is your left foot and the right stick is your right foot. So if you end up
Okay.
flipping the board around, it makes the inputs flip. So it's way
Oh.
so I've called it kind of the Dark Souls of skateboarding games, but at the same time, as somebody who used to attempt to skate, I say attempt, um, it really captures like the physics of skateboarding really well. Like that makes total sense to me. If you were flipped around backwards, now your left foot is behind you instead of in front of you. So it
Hmm.
flips the input around. So if you'd want to do an ollie, you'd have to like reverse the input to do it. It also makes it so like when you land a trick, it's so satisfying because you're usually trying for fucking ever to try to land it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I was about to interrupt.
no, go ahead. What do you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like it sounds exciting, and I'm very happy that you're playing it. One, love watching you play. I don't think it's a game for me though.
Yeah, I hear that. There was a lot of people that
Yeah.
came out of the woodwork that it's like if you're a bigger fan of Tony Hawk, which I love Tony Hawk,
Oh
this is
yeah.
this is not the game for you. If
No.
you think Skate was too easy, this is the game for you. like and I think it's just scratching that itch because there's not a new Skate out quite yet.
Hmm.
Like there's certain things that the game is missing. Like you can't do grab tricks. It's all flip
Okay.
tricks, grinds. I think they just recently added in lip tricks and they added in to where your board could actually break.
Hmm.
So I was having fun for a while, like doing like quadruple kickflips off of a roof and just seeing if the board would snap, and it did.
Okay.
The downside is you have to buy a new skateboard every time
What?
because again, Dark Souls of skateboarding games. So I would break it, go to the skateboard shop, buy a new one, break it, go to the skateboard shop. So I shut that back off, because I was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
testing
Yeah.
it, and I got tired of
Yeah.
buying skateboards over and over. But yeah, that game, the physics model in that game is just so good. Like, and like I said, when you land something, even my daughter sees it. Like, I'll land something, I'll just be like, and I know people who are just listening to this can't see this, but I literally did like the field goal thing with my hand, like, oh my god, I can't believe I landed that. And then I'd be like, I wonder if I could like throw a kickflip in before that and now land it. Like if I do a tail slide down this ridiculous rail and land it, can I throw in a kickflip before it? Can I do that? So now that's me just like seeing how many crazy complicated things. And I have this habit in that game of like finding things that you shouldn't be doing tricks off of, like awnings of stores and
Hmm.
like things like that, because I'll like jump off a stairway, drop like 2 stories, land on the awning, do a kickflip off that, and then land on the sidewalk. Yeah, it's so much fun, man. It
So,
for me anyway.
question, Chase, are you a perfectionist? Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
I'm very hard on myself.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
Well,
I'm a
hey, I'll
perfectionist.
I'll I'll roll with that. How does that play into this game for you?
I'm not very far in the story, if that's what you're saying. Because I'm too busy. I'm literally making up little stories in my head as I'm playing this. I'm like, I'm gonna imagine that I'm doing a best trick contest right now in this one little rail section of a city, and that this is our spot that we're competing at. And like,
Mhm.
I'm just like, okay, I want to do a kickflip in, backside tail slide, kickflip out. Okay, now I want to do a kickflip tail slide 360 flip out. Now I want to do like I just keep escalating it and trying to like see
Mhm.
like how far I can take it, because I kind of understand the physics of like how your feet need to move to get the skateboard to move in said ways when you're doing flip tricks. It just I've been having so much fun with it. I don't know why. It's been my game that every night, like when I need to wind down, I just fire it up because that's like an easy game. I can just play it for a few minutes. I can just go find a spot that I'm like, oh, I haven't really messed around in this spot before. It only has 3 cities still. It has New York, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. Never
Okay.
been to any of those cities, so I can't say how real like from what I hear, what other people have said, that it's pretty like 1-to-1, at least, and it's got a lot of like the famous skating spots that you would know of in those cities. Um,
Okay,
but
okay.
I can't speak to if like how accurate they may be. Um, but New York is definitely the biggest filled out city. Like, it has a bunch of fast travel points that you can go to, and it has maybe like 50 in New York, where like Philadelphia and San Francisco maybe only have like 20 so far. So I think they're continuing to fill it out. I would love to see them add more cities going
Hmm.
forward. Like, I mean, this is like wishful thinking on my part, but because I was more of an aggressive inliner because I sucked at skateboarding, but I used to skate that way a lot. I'd love to see them add Detroit. I'd love to see them like,
Okay.
or like, this is a long shot because I like skating there better, but I'd love to see them add Grand Rapids. That would be awesome. Um,
Yeah, I can see Detroit a little
I
bit
could
more
see Detroit
though.
a little bit more. Grand Rapids is
Yeah.
more of a me thing, or like even like because I have done this before. Like I've skated a little bit in Chicago, so I'd like to see them
Hmm.
add like I would just like to see them add some more cities. That would be really cool. Or go real weird with it and add something like do something silly, like how Tony Hawk had like hell in one of the in one of the games, or like one of the
Not
10th.
e- Not even to go like that ridiculous, but just like Tony Hawk Underground 2, where they it was like skating on like a mountain.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Skatopia, the last level. That's
Yeah.
a real skate location.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know
that
that.
is a real skate location. I believe in Pennsylvania. It's just like this
Okay.
infamous skate place where like a bunch of like burnouts and skaters just like hang out, get fucked up, and skate, and they just build all these ridiculous like things that you wouldn't normally skate on, but it's just like it was like somebody's passion project. So yeah, or at least
Oh.
I don't know if it's still built, but I remember when that game came out, it was a big deal because like I knew about that place. I was like, no, they're throwing
Hmm.
Skatopia in this game. That's freaking insane. Um, and since there's no new Tony Hawk games coming out anytime soon,
Oh yeah, no, that those got canned.
yeah, they're working on
Yeah.
Call of Duty now,
Yeah.
which
I mean,
sucks.
we were supposed to get 3 and 4
I wanted
HD
Underground.
remakes.
I wanted Underground so bad. Underground 1 is my favorite between the two, Underground 1
Mhm.
and 2, but I do like Underground 2. Underground 2 is when it was starting to get a little too Jackass Viva La Bam for me. Which I
Yeah.
appreciate Jackass and Viva La Bam for what they are, but like I really liked Underground 1 because it was like you started as that like amateur skater, and then you made it down to
Hmm.
an amateur team, and then you made it onto a pro team, and then you lost it all. And yeah. It was a great.
Well, hey, I know this is not usually like a bit you do on here, but I do want to recommend just because like you mentioned Skatopia and like how like cool of a place it is. If anyone watches anime, check out Skate the Infinite. It's all about like this like big lead skateboarder or downhill skateboarder who wants to make a skate utopia but is like kind of an asshole about it. And so like he's like the villain of the show, and then the main guy is some like Canadian snowboarder who moves to Japan and becomes a skateboarder.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Sean White
really
style.
cool. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. He did go pro for in skateboarding too, didn't he, for a little bit?
Did
I
he?
know he was a snowboarder first, and then he like like kind of like dipped his toe in skateboarding for a little while. Um, but yeah, that session, I believe it's everywhere. I'm pretty sure. Just know that they're still working on it. Like I said, even have an experimental section where it's like if you want to do lip tricks, you can add them in, but we don't know how it's gonna work. Like, and I'm hoping that I don't know how they would add it, but like I'd love to see them add grab tricks, like fill out that trick so we have all the tricks that you could do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Another weird complaint that I have about it is you can't skate on a half pipe in that game. Like you can't do the back and forth because like your skater naturally wants to level out. So like
Oh.
that was really weird for me. Luckily, I'm more of like a street skater, so like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really mess with like the quarter pipes and the bowls and the half pipes too much. But that was really weird. I feel like that's one minor complaint that I have. I was like, I feel like that's one part of their physics that they kind of need to fix. So instead of going like, I know this is gonna be terrible again for people listening, but instead of going back and forth like this, you kind of go back up. Or like if you try to drop in, you just sort of like stumble down it. Like it doesn't work
That's
right.
weird. I wonder if it's just I wouldn't say a problem, but just like something to do with their physics engine with it.
Right, and I just feel like it's just something that they just haven't quite nailed down yet. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
even though the game is 1.0, it's not technically in beta anymore or anything like that. They've continued to work on it, and
Okay.
I'd love to see them add that. But yeah, that's Session. It's pretty much like I said everywhere except for maybe Nintendo Switch. Um, but yeah. And then now we're gonna get into what we've both been kind of playing.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be the Final Fantasy block, folks. Um, we could start with a Pixel remaster. I played
Okay.
that for the first time last night on stream. I didn't archive it because it's been out for a while. But it'll be up on my Twitch channel for at least 2 weeks. Man, they did a great job with that. So far, I I got party wiped in the beginning.
Yeah.
So like the last half of my stream was just me like going out, grinding for Gil, reviving somebody, going out, grinding for
Yeah.
Gil, reviving
Yeah.
somebody, because like I was too busy like looking around at everything else that I wasn't paying attention to my health of my characters. um
Yeah. I think the first time I went up against Garland, I got my ass kicked.
yeah, like I only had my warrior living at the end.
That's
I
funny.
didn't
Yeah.
swap out any of my party members. Uh I went warrior, thief, white mage, black mage. What did you go with?
So I switched out the thief for the monk.
Uh-huh.
Just because I like monks in games. But yeah, that's what I've been playing as. And listen, you grew up with this game, right? You
Yes, but
played this game a lot.
I did not actually play this one. I did not get into
Oh, okay,
Final
okay.
Fantasy until 7. I was born when
Gotcha.
this game came out. I was 0. So I've touched this game when the PSP remaster
hmm
came out. I touched 1 and 2. And then
hmm
when 3 and 4 came out on the original DS, I touched those. Never touched 5 and 6. And then like even 7 through 9 my cousin owned, and he lived
hmm
I said this on stream last night, he lived 3.5 hours away. So like I technically haven't beat Final Fantasy 7 fully. It would be
hmm
I'd play as much as I could with them when I was up north with him, and then I'd leave for 6 months and he'd play more without me, and then I'd come back up and he'd fill me in. So I even have a lot of holes from 7 through 9. Even though I
Okay.
love those games and say I'm a huge fan, technically, I haven't finished any of those. That's why I ended up downloading all of them, because I was
hmm
like, you know what? I want to finally play these for myself. Um, how have you been enjoying it so far, though? As someone who's like
Um,
completely, I mean, it's an old game and it plays like an
yeah.
old game. How have you been? As someone who's,
Honestly, it doesn't play like in the sense of an old game. It's fun.
it
I'm
looks
having I
really good
like
too.
yeah, like I like how there's not really like a direction that is given to you. It's not like there's like a pointer on the map or anything. Like it's more of like you kind of have to walk around and talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, "Hey, we're missing this," or like you go into like the ruined castle and you talk to the king, and he goes, "Hey, I lost my crown. Can you go find it in the swamp?"
It's
And
very
so like
Zelda-like in that
yeah,
way,
very very
like
Zelda
original
like.
Zelda. Yeah.
And one thing, and it probably wasn't. I don't think it was in the original release. The one thing I like, and I'm sure people are going to scoff at, is I can turn off encounters.
Not only can you turn off encounters, I don't know if you saw the boost options in the options
Mm-hmm.
menu, that you can increase your gil and experience up to 4 times.
I didn't see that.
I like that. I actually put that on because I am more playing these games for the story. I'm not really playing
Mm-hmm.
it to like grind or anything like that. And I was able to like that helped me when I got party wiped. I was like, oh man, it's 500 gil for a 1 Phoenix down. Well, I'm gonna bump up
Mm-hmm.
my gil and XP for, so I'm getting four
Yeah,
times the amount of oh, go ahead.
oh no, you're fine.
No,
I wish I would have known. I'm gonna change it now. But like I've just been sitting in the ocean and I would just run circles and like
Pokemon style.
just yeah, oh 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing I really like about that game, is it has some kind of old school options. So I don't know if this did it for you, but when it loaded up the game, it was playing. It's like they redid all the music to sound more
Okay.
modern.
Mm-hmm.
There's an option in that to flip it back to the classic soundtrack, like
Really?
the 8-bit style soundtrack. So I flipped it back to that. And the font, how it's smooth, I even flipped the
Mm-hmm.
font back to the old school font. So it looks like a calculator font almost, like, or
Uh-huh.
like the old Nintendo font that was really pixelated. I even flipped it
Yeah.
back to that. The only thing I didn't turn on was the scan lines because I don't want to have scan lines on my monitor. But
Right, right,
everything,
right, right.
because I'm not trying to be a purist, but because I haven't experienced this, I was like, I want to feel these as close as I can to the original. But last night on stream, I played half the stream with the new they call it modernized text and orchestral soundtrack, and then the other halfway through the stream I flipped those both back just to show both.
Hmm.
I think that's a cool option because I like hearing the old stuff modernized, but then I also like going back and like listening to that old school like
Yeah.
8-bit version of the like that.
That was one of the cool things that they put in, or just like in any games in general, when they put in the ability to turn on like old 8-bit like OG sounds in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it.
And I'm not gonna lie, when I was listening to it halfway through the game, the modern soundtrack with the 8-bit sound effects were kind of like screwing with my brain. Like it was like the soundtrack was this big, Final Fantasy bombastic orchestral thing, but then the sounds were still like I'm like, okay, now it's breaking my brain a little bit, but that's more of a me problem. I still think
Hmm.
it's cool that they included both options.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely excited to like get further into like the other games of like, oh, I'm gonna flip it on and off in 2 and 3. I'm gonna do it both. I want to see both versions. Like, I'm super excited, and I have all the way up till 12 now. On my
I'm probably gonna match you game for game and up to 6 probably, just
yeah.
because I enjoy high fantasy more than like cyberpunky and
Mm-hmm.
steampunk.
And it
Yeah.
definitely goes cyberpunk. I would say 9 kind of dips its toe going back into the fantasy route, and even
Hmm.
12 kind of dips its toe into going back into more of the high fantasy route. But yeah, definitely once 7 hits, it's like sci-fi. For the
Yeah.
most part, it's sci-fi fantasy is what I would say.
I mean, I think I have like 8 and 10. Um, I just for some reason I can't get into them.
Yeah, I understand.
Squall kind of gets on my nerves though.
I love me some Squall though. 8 is probably my second favorite of the oh no, 9's really good though. um, I don't know.
I gotta get you with my Final Fantasy friends who are like way more into this than I
Yeah,
can even possibly get into.
but even then, I'd probably look like a casual to them because like me being broke my whole life again, I only dipped
Mm.
my toes in a lot of them. My first one that I beat fully on myself by myself was 10. Um,
Okay.
and then I never played 10-2. Well, I mean, I did play 10-2, but oh, if wounds could show. Um, I'm not a fan of
Well,
when.
one of the guys who actually you're gonna meet in the wedding party, um, I think I don't know how far he got, but I know he was doing like what you are wanting to do, where he started from the first one and he just started going through them all. He
Nice.
did that I think last year or 2 years ago or something like that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just figured for me, it gives me content between the big releases for my
Yeah.
stream channel. Like, I try to, I don't try to beat a lot of games on stream because I like to enjoy them myself. That's why I kind of stopped playing 16 on stream because I want to enjoy it
Hmm.
myself. The one game I played all the way through to completion on stream was Near Replicant when it came out, the remake. But I had 2 saves going, so I beat it all by myself and then replayed it in front of everybody. And same thing with Near Automata. I did the same thing. Like I played it all off stream and then played it all on stream. Those are the
Hmm.
only 2 games I've ever finished on stream. But this will give me a chance, like I said, between like I said, I've got Mortal Kombat 1, Lies of P, and Armored Core. Duh, Armored Core pre-ordered.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I'll probably play those a little bit on stream, but I mean most of those I'm gonna play. Which I'm gonna
Mhm.
hopefully if Dustin over here picks up Armored Core, and now that Twitch announced that it's easier to co-stream, that's coming. We's
Oh,
gonna.
yeah. No, you don't have to convince me at all. I'm on board.
That's gonna
Speaking
be a
about
fun.
Armored Core, they started releasing. I don't know if they did it before, but I just noticed that like a couple of the Gundam websites that I frequent have Armored Core like model sets you can buy,
The hype
and I
train
think
has
that's
begun.
oh yeah.
Yep. I'm so excited for that game. I did see that people kind of poo pooed it that were hardcore From fans that were like, this doesn't play like a Dark Souls game. And I'm like, no,
Dark
it
Souls.
plays like an Armored Core game, which they made first. Um, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to deal a lot with like Armored Core talk now. It's going to deal a lot with
Hmm.
like cooldown management and making sure your mech doesn't overheat. And instead of
Hmm.
having a stamina bar, you're gonna have that overheating bar. You have to swap out parts constantly, and That shit. I really hope they. I can't remember in the trailer. Did they show the parts where like you could get out of your mech? I hope you can get out of your mech.
I don't think they showed anything. I know you and I talked about it.
I love like if my mech blew up. Like if me and you are fighting and our mechs blew up, and now
Mhm.
now we're just first person shooting each other. That would be amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. Also, I would
I'm
like to
on
have a
board.
first person cockpit mode.
Yes.
I don't know how often I would play in that mode but man, oh, okay. Now we're gonna go off into another rant. Mech a minute before we get back to Final Fantasy. Did you ever play
Yeah.
Steel Battalion?
I listen. You said first person mech fighting, and I thought of that. I've never played it only
Neither have
because I
I,
would.
but I've always wanted to.
That controller was like obnoxious to look at.
I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. So for people that don't know, Steel Battalion was this mech game that got made on the original Xbox, I believe, and then PC that literally
Hmm.
came with a controller that was like, you know how you got your flight sticks and stuff? Think of a flight stick on steroids because it had like 3 sections that went around you. And I remember one of my friends had it and he said the first mission he
Oh,
couldn't
you
get
even had
past.
pedals.
Yeah, it had pedals too. And he said he couldn't
Yeah.
get past the first mission because he kept stalling the mech out.
Listen, I'm looking at it right now, and this is this is dumb.
It's dumb, and I love it. That's
Yeah.
like that part just cracked me. It's like I couldn't get past the first mission because I kept stalling the mech out. I'm like that's awesome. I mean that's terrible for you, but that's awesome that it's that realistic.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so you said you're gonna probably definitely do 1 through 6 in the Final
Oh
Fantasy.
yeah. 100%.
And people argue that have played all of them that 6 is actually the best. A lot of people say
Okay.
that
Okay.
6 is actually better than 7, and then you got the 14 crowd that say 14 is better than all of them. But I don't have 1,000 hours to commit to any MMO, uh, let alone a final.
I played 14.
Yeah.
It's garbage.
Okay. Did you play through
For
all the
okay,
expansions though? Because that's what everybody
let me
said. Once they
explain, I
got to
guess.
Realm Reborn, people said, "Oh, they finally fixed it." But I do know that
Let
14 launched in a very shitty state.
Yeah, no. I mean, I just played like last year. It's not like I played at launch.
Mhm.
Um I guess some background to me. I played like a decade's worth of World of Warcraft. And then of course I did like your odds and ends here and there of different online MMOs. Like I did like DC Online and stuff like that.
I did
Um,
City of Villains. Do you remember City of Heroes and City of Villains? That's
yeah,
old as shit. And then I did
yeah.
Guild Wars too. Those were the three. I did Guild
Okay.
Wars, World of Warcraft, and I did City of Villains because I wanted to be a bad guy
Mhm.
instead of heroes. But
But yeah, no. It was fun. I didn't get anywhere near like end gamey. Um, I got to I think how far did I get? I got to where you can first like level up your character to like the next like class. But then I also wanted to play like 7 other classes, and so I started like a bunch of different characters, and then I kind of burnt myself out. Plus, it's like stupid expensive to play the game,
well,
so I didn't want to continue paying monthly.
and like I said, like when it launched, it was in a shitty state. And like my friend
Hmm.
Danny Sweet, she's gonna what you said probably hurt her really bad right now, and probably my
I'm
friend Zach too.
sorry.
But
I'm sorry.
they told me the same thing. They're like, yeah, once you get to Realm Reborn, the story gets phenomenal because the same person who wrote 16 started
Hmm.
writing at Realm Reborn, not at the
I
original version of
wanted
14.
to.
The
I wanted to.
problem with that is you have to play hundreds of hours to get to the point where it gets
Yeah.
good. Could
Yeah.
you play
That's
Square? Let me like pay money to skip the crap and start at Realm Reborn with like a level like whatever level you need to be at
the
because I want to play Shadowbringers because that's the near expansion. Really bad that Yoko Taro was on and that they have an alternate version of 2B named 2P, the white one.
hmm
Ah, I
hmm
want to play that so bad. But I know I will never experience it because of how long it's going to take because I would have to get through Realm Reborn and then what was it? Heaven Sword and like so many just to get to Shadowbringers. And then
hmm
Endwalker everyone says is even better than Shadowbringers and I'm just like I'm never going to get there. I have children. It's never going to happen.
See, like World of Warcraft did that, where they offered like I think at the time when I played, they offered like a level 70 skip, where you paid like $20, and it would
Right.
take a level 1 character and put it at level 70, but there's one drawback to that. Cuz I did it. I did it like twice. So I had my characters that I started from level 1 and I worked at them. I got them to max and I rated and all that stuff. And then I did my two characters that I bought and like got them up to 70 and then just played them from there. The downside is if you haven't made that character before, you've never played that character, you're fucking lost. Like
Right.
I just didn't know how to play it, and I spent like an entire day, and yeah, okay, you got the 70, but I spent an entire day going back to low level lands, figuring out how to play this character. So I was like, might as well just start from the beginning and grind because
Yeah.
then you learn.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know. Maybe one day somebody will just do like a cutscene dump of all the Final Fantasy 14 on YouTube because as a Nier fan, I'm not shy of doing that. I got into Nier in Nier Automata at the very end. There's so many fucking games that came out before that I had to just YouTube a lot of it. So I would totally do that. So somebody out there, please make a YouTube dump of the cutscenes at least. So your boy can enjoy it somewhat. Um, and then the last game we're going to talk about is the same game that I've been talking about for a couple weeks, but it'll be nice to talk to somebody who's been playing it as well. Final
Hmm.
Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
How have you been enjoying it so far? We'll just start with that.
So again, some background for me. The only Final Fantasy games prior to 16 that I played were 7 remake, bits and pieces of like 8 and 10, and then I played 14. Um,
But you're a massive Kingdom Hearts fan. Me and you both.
Huge Kingdom
Me
Hearts
and you
fan.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love this game.
Yeah.
Um, I hate the fact that the two games you've brought me on now, all I can sit there is say that like this is like the best game I've ever played, but that's what it's feeling like. I do realize with talks with like you and some other friends and some coworkers and other places, um, it is kind of a bare bones Final Fantasy.
It's an action RPG, is the
Yeah,
way that I say it. It's way more of an action RPG.
yeah, and like I can see the parallels that people are bringing between that and Game of Thrones. It is very blatant, especially in the beginning.
I am so happy I've never watched a second of Game of Thrones now, just saying.
Why are you happy?
Because that means this seems good to me. It doesn't seem like it's copying anything to me.
As someone who saw the entire show, this is so better.
See, I've had some people saying it's worse than Game of Thrones, and I was like,
No, I mean I've definitely seen stuff where people are saying that this might be one of the most controversial Final Fantasy games. Um,
well,
but
it's the first M-rated one, so
right,
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, there's a lot that you could potentially see in this game, and I'm not just talking about action. But there's been quite a few times on stream where I had to just go to my face cam because I was very afraid that something was going to come up on screen.
yeah,
Um, but no, it is a blast. I just got Limit Break, and that was like one of the most like goosebumpy filled like just I can't wait. Once you get there, we need to talk about it because
okay.
that scene,
Did you?
that whole sorry,
Nope. Go ahead.
I was going to say that whole segment like building up to it and then getting it is super satisfying to me because it's so much fun.
So for context, I will say that
Hmm.
Dustin is about. We talked about it right before the pod, about a third through the game, and I'm right behind him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we're both about only a third through. Um, I remember I said last week, shut the motion blur off to increase the frame rate. They
Hmm.
released another patch. I was able to turn the motion blur back on. So
Ooh.
that's cool. That's the only reason why I don't like motion blur is a lot of the times it impacts frame rate, and I'm a frame rate snob.
Hmm.
But now that it's not impacting the frame rate as much, I've turned it back on. Um, I still really enjoy the combat. I don't care that
Hmm.
it's not like it's more
Hmm.
action focused. Like it feels so good.
Like the ability to string along attacks is so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that you can
Like,
just like start a combo with fire and end it with wind
mhm,
or whatever else you have. Um,
yeah,
like it's so satisfying. I've already pretty much leveled up all the base abilities to their
same,
max. Now I'm
same.
just trying to level up like the icon specific stuff. I think the only thing I didn't
Hmm.
level up at all was taunting because I don't taunt. I just felt like that was a waste of points in my part. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
find a use for it later. But as of right now, I'm not using it. Um, I lost a train of thought. I had a point. Um, damn, where is it in my brain?
Well, while you
Somewhere.
think, what so far, because I know where you and I are both at and how many icon abilities we have between the fire and the air or wind, I guess. Which one's your favorite so far?
Ooh, I like the zipping in of the
Mm-hmm.
fire versus the pulling them towards you because you can't pull like a lot of the bigger enemies towards you. So I
Right.
like the zipping in, but I kind of like the wind abilities so far. Is
Okay.
what I well, like as far as like the abilities go.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you use gouge?
yes,
Oh, that's so nice.
yes.
That was probably my favorite one so far.
Yep. Um, and then oh God, I almost had the point again, and then I lost it again. Um, it's such a good game so far.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say when we get to the end of the year because I still haven't figured out. We're about halfway through the year, and I still haven't figured out what we're gonna do for like game of the year talk.
Okay.
Like all your podcasts do. This is gonna be a year of arguing because you've got Tears of the Kingdom, which I know I didn't play, so I'm not gonna argue
Mm-hmm.
for it, but Brandon has, so you know he's gonna argue for it. You like it. Uh,
Yes.
Now we've got 16. I said earlier, and I haven't finished it yet because of 16 coming out, but I still make a point to finish it. I still think my sleeper hit of the year is still Season. That little,
Yeah.
that's mine. So but there's more stuff coming out too. Like we've talked about coming out. It's like this is gonna be this has turned out to be such a good year for games, and we're not even
Mm-hmm.
all the way through it yet.
I'm gonna kindly request that we try to all get us on that podcast
Mm-hmm.
because as it's shaping out to be, I'm probably gonna have my hand on at least all of the game of the quote unquote like game of the year nominees for Game Awards
Mm-hmm.
because people are saying that the Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor
Mm-hmm.
was the first like nominee, and then we got Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy 16. I'm picking up Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
totally forgot about Spider-Man 2.
yeah.
I won't be able to pick that up right when it releases, but I'm gonna put it on my Christmas list for sure. Or borrow it from you
I,
when you finish it.
hey, I'm down. Sure. I mean, we'll see how long it takes me, just because it comes out right before I get married,
Right,
and
yeah.
I will probably only be playing it when my then wife will probably be taking naps. But that's it.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is just a banger year. Yeah, I'm thinking like because I hate that like a lot of other outlets will do their game of the year in like November or December, and I'm like,
Hmm.
you still got a whole month of the year left. Like
Yeah.
Crisis Core,
That's why I like the Oscars.
yeah, Crisis Core last year wasn't even in contention for anything because it came out in December for the Game Awards, which I mean, Crisis Core is a remake, so I didn't think it was going to necessarily win anything. But still, the
Hmm.
fact that it like couldn't even be mentioned and now they're shoehorning it into this year's Game Awards and it just doesn't. So I'm thinking like end of January because that way it gives us, and maybe beginning of February, that way it gives us to like a chance to like mop up anything that we hadn't
Hmm.
finished throughout the year. But that's what I'm thinking is like end of January heated discussions will begin about,
Oh yeah.
and maybe we'll even because I
I'll
talked
bring the
about
alcohol for me.
maybe maybe because I used to do top 10 lists, maybe we can the three of us put like a black box signal top 10 list together that is
Okay.
like we start with like a list of games and we whittle it down and we make that a whole podcast
Okay.
of just us arguing and being like, all right, I'm willing to move Final Fantasy 16 down to 3 if we move season up to 2. Or some shit like that. Or
Mm, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
but um yeah, anything else that you wanted to say about 16? I've said a lot cuz been talking about it for the last 4
No,
or
you're
5
fine. I mean,
episodes.
you echoed a lot of the same sentiments I have. Um, I mean, it's just so much fun.
The
The
voice
characters in
acting.
it are
That's what I should bring
oh
up with you, Mr. Voice
yes.
Actor.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that is definitely something that I pay attention to a lot in games is voice acting. Um, this game does a fantastic job. I they it every character feels like their voice matches. There was one at first when I didn't think it matched his voice
Was
or
it
his
Joshua?
body. No, it's goats.
Oh, okay. Cuz I heard a
I
lot of
didn't
people
think it
complain about
matched,
Joshua.
but then I fell in love with goats.
Mhm.
Um, Goats is by far my favorite character, even though he's just like some minor like C-list background character. Love him.
It's
Um,
still Sid for me. I love me some Sid.
Oh, Sid's great. Sid's voice is amazing. I've been told that he played a the actor also did a really big part in the Diablo 4 game.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, get your bag. Um, no, voice acting is phenomenal. I love who plays Clive. He does a fantastic job. Benedicta's voice actor like fucking like made me angry and like not to the point of like I hated her playing like her acting. I hated her because she made me hate the character.
Dude, my wife, when I was fighting Benedicta in that fight,
Hmm.
she came over and you're not gonna again, this is not gonna play well on the pot for people who are just listening, but I was literally like with my control in my hand with this look on my face.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally just I was like, I'm gonna murder you. Like
Oh
I am
yeah,
so
and
done with your shit.
the way
Like
she talked shit about Sid the whole time, I was like, I'm gonna kill you.
I'm like, yeah, you can't
I'm
talk
gonna
about
kill
my
you.
boy like that. You can't.
No, 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 no.
You don't come from my boy. Um, yeah. Um, oh, this is really, really random and we're kind of backtracking, but can you guess who I named all my Final Fantasy 1 characters after?
Was it the our squad there at work?
No. But that
Oh,
was a
really?
great idea. Damn it. Final Fantasy 2. Uh, um Kime, Nier, Kaine, Emil. It's very on brand.
Okay, that checks. Well, I put you in mind, so
Okay. Well, now I'm telling you, two. Final Fantasy. Well, no, I think that's when they finally name characters. If they don't, two. Final Fantasy 2 will be the
how
one
do,
in my squad.
I guess as to continue a little bit of the backtrack, how do you feel about being a black mage? Because that's what I made you. You're my black mage.
I love black mages. Black
Cool,
mages are my favorite
awesome.
class. Um,
You're wiping out everyone with Thundera and Fire right now,
yeah.
so you're
So
good.
I explained on stream. I don't know if this is true or not, but from what I remember, you know how the red mage can do both white and black magic.
I did not.
So the red mage can do both white and black magic. However, I believe the case is that a red mage doing a white magic spell is not as powerful as a straight white mage doing a white magic spell or a black
Okay.
mage. So like it's like they're a jack of all trades, master of none, where the
Hmm.
black mage is a master of black magic and the white mage is a master of. That was my one
Okay.
choice. I was like, should I swap them out so then I can just have a 2-for-1? But then you
Hmm.
know they can only have so many spells equipped at a time.
Right, right,
So
right.
I ended up just going with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, black mages are my shit. There's a black mage later on in Final Fantasy IX named Vivi. I love me some Vivi. Um, so yeah, black mages all the way.
Yeah.
But that's all we've been playing. You want to get into some news?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Someday, someday
Someday.
we'll have
Someday.
something. If I didn't decide to redo my entire stream setup last night, might have actually put some more work into this podcast. But we're gonna start with everybody's favorite story that we've been talking about for too fucking long.
Hmm.
So this whole section, I'm just gonna preface this. This came out. All this news came out with the FTC court case against Microsoft. Their preliminary injunction that they filed against them. So all this stuff leaked during this case because obviously they wanted to investigate Microsoft and all their emails. But because Sony was the one raising a lot of the chief complaint, Sony had to do the same.
Hmm.
So the first big thing, and this comes from IGN, is that The Last of Us Part 2 costed $220 million to develop with a peak head
Jesus
count of 200
Christ.
full-time employees. And Horizon Forbidden West cost $212 million to develop with more than 300 developers working on it.
God damn.
Holy
That's
shit.
obnoxious.
Like,
I
and the
mean,
fact
great
that
games, but that's obnoxious.
well, and the fact that like people are still like having to like work their insane hours and not get the pay that they
Hmm.
meant, and yet all that money, like that is just, and it was and it says here in this article, head of Xbox Game Studios Matt Booty said big budget games now take half a decade to make, with failure having potential to ruin the studio. Well, I mean, with numbers like that, yeah, you spend
I mean,
200.
listen. These games are great, right? But I don't want games that are gonna, if they just slightly underperform to crash an entire studio.
Yeah. That's like bankruptcy status. Like,
Yeah.
and we'll get into another story a little bit later on that deals with that, but it's like it's getting ridiculous. Like I saw, like you see my
Mhm.
little quotes in there. It just said Jesus. Like, oh my god. Like that is just as somebody who was originally going to school for game development,
Mhm.
even that like just like
Yeah.
blows my mind that like we've gotten to this point.
Mhm.
Um, because that's like getting to like movie status at this point. Like I don't
Oh, no,
even.
it already is movie
Well, yeah.
status.
Like I don't
Like,
under.
just as like a I can only think of one off the top of my head right now, but the most recent Indiana Jones was $375 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around in that ballpark.
And we're creeping up on that.
Yeah.
And that's just Last of Us and Horizon. How much did God of
Mhm.
War cost? How much did
Oh,
like
yeah.
like you could just start going down the list of like, and even not even just on the Sony front. You can go then flip on the side. How much did the last Halo cost? How much did the last Gears of War cost? Like it's just exponentially getting more out of control and more out of control that me flunking out of game dev school, I feel like now is me dodging a bullet. Um,
No wonder why they keep licensing all these characters to Fortnite skins, because they can reap some of the money back.
yeah, it's just printing money. And like
Yeah.
this is why I've said for a very long time that people like to complain about the price of games going up $10 this generation. I'm sitting here thinking like games should be like $100 to $120 a copy
Oh, easily.
easily. The fact that we've
Easily.
had games be $60 for like what? Almost two console generations and then only did a $10 price hike with these new consoles, we're extremely lucky.
Oh, 100%.
Extremely lucky. And then that's why I tell people, I roll my eyes at people when they start complaining about DLC and season passes. And it's because they don't have a choice. They have to like say that they're working on something like that, or else they're not going to get the funding. Now,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, Final Corgi?
Final Corgi's here.
Yeah, Final Corgi's here.
What up?
One of Dustin's fans. We're doing great. We're just talking about how ridiculous
Fans,
game
he's a
budgets are
mod.
getting. Yeah,
He's more than a fan.
One of Dustin's mods. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was the first thing that kind of came out was like the price.
Hmm.
This next story comes from it comes from Android Authority because I wanted to find the specific instance. Microsoft gave away Sony's plans for a PS5 Slim and a PS5 Pro expected to launch this year. Or no, I'm
This
sorry. The PS5 Slim is expected to launch this year for $400, while the PS5 Pro will be coming in the near future. Air quotes.
near as in NIER?
I
Just
wish.
kidding.
Um, I mean,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, you go first
Oh,
because
I was just gonna say, quick question before we continue with this. Does it feel like that this is like one of the worst like divorce proceedings you've ever seen? Like mom and dad are fighting about who they own
yeah.
or like what they get, and like we're all trapped in the middle of it. And honestly, I kind of hate it.
Oh, I hate it too. The way I look at it too is it's like I feel like this court case. Well, this part of the court case. Spoiler alert: it had already been
Mhm.
resolved. We're gonna get there in a second.
Yeah,
But I feel like it's not going to come down to who has the best argument. I feel like it's going to come down to who has the best worst argument. Like who basically doesn't
yeah.
have like it's going to come because both sides have just even Sony's arguments have been real shitty so far and it's just going to
Yeah.
come down who has the least shitty argument.
It's also like now they're taking pot shots at each other. Like you said, Xbox like just in the middle of this was like, well, Sony's making a PS5 Slim and Pro, but then like PS5 were put out those. I don't know if you, I can't remember if you talked about it, but released those emails where Xbox was talking shit internally, saying like this was their whole game plan to
Their plan
shut
was to
down
yeah,
Sony.
spend Sony out of business. That was the quote.
Yeah,
Directly
yeah,
from Matt Booty in an email. Yeah, we talked about that in the
yeah.
last episode. And it's just like this sucks all the way around. Like both
Mm-hmm.
sides are just being petty as fuck at this point.
Can we just go back to Grandma and Grandpa Nintendo and just sit with Pokemon and Mario for a little bit?
Yeah. And the other thing of
Okay.
like Sony not willing to accept any sort of deal except for to have Call of Duty on their platform in perpetuity. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, you're being ridiculous at this point.
Listen, cross your arms, dig in your heels, whatever. And when it comes down to it, the downside is that you're putting your fans more at risk than you are your bottom dollar.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get to the point where your fans are gonna have to start choosing, and not gonna lie, kind of losing faith a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Like for both of them,
Yeah.
like they're both pulling some really shady, like ugly shit right now. Even when like what was it like E3 like 20 years ago? Just kidding. But like whatever it was, where they both came on stage and Xbox was like, we acquired like Devolver Digital and like all the and Bethesda, and I'm like, that's gonna be a problem,
Mm-hmm.
huge problem.
Yeah,
Like
look at
down the road,
Starfield.
and
I want to play Starfield so bad. I won't be able to. I don't have a PC that can run it, and I have a PS5, so I don't have an
I
Xbox.
I I want to play it too. The downside is that we are one Xbox house, and I got to play rock paper scissors with someone who's addicted to Stardew Valley before I play it.
And it's just like what was the other thing too? Oh, the other thing I was gonna say is like, okay, Microsoft offered Sony the deal for 10 years. Then they could come back and say 20. Eventually, Microsoft's just gonna be like, all right, fuck you. Then we're just not gonna put it out at all. I
Yeah,
could see that happening. I mean, on the flip side, I also see that Microsoft would be an idiot to take Call of Duty off of Sony platforms because statistically,
hmm,
Call of Duty makes the most money on Sony platforms right now. So you
yeah,
would be shooting yourself in the foot. But if Sony keeps doing this whole tit for tat thing, both sides, it's just gonna get
yeah,
ugly. The whole thing's gonna
yeah.
get ugly. Um,
This is the gaming equivalent of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard court case from last year.
yeah, it really is. It's
Yeah.
and you know, and Sony is a smaller company, but they're going around buying people up too. They bought Bungie, like,
Oh yeah,
which may
they're
not
not.
be the size of an Activision Blizzard, but that's still a big studio. There's rumors for a long time that they're looking into buying Square Enix. That's a big one too. So
Yeah.
it's just gonna be nasty. This whole thing's gonna be nasty. Um,
Listen, all I'm saying is there's something came out of this that makes me very upset. Um, don't get me wrong, Spider-Man's great. I love the Spider-Man series, but PlayStation buying Insomniac made it to where we could no longer get Sunset Overdrive 2.
oh my god, I know. I liked Sunset
Yeah.
Overdrive. I played it at a friend's
Oh,
house,
one of
and
the greatest like launch games
like
ever.
one hit wonder. Like,
Yeah.
then it just disappeared. Like,
Yeah.
aren't we already at that point? Says Final Corgi. Yes, yes, we
Yeah.
really
100%.
are.
We're past it. We're just kind of moving the goalpost at this point.
Yeah. Um, next story comes from The Verge, and this one really pissed me off, but I also called it. I think I said a few months ago on the podcast that I bet you the UK is just waiting to see what we do. And this is going to kind of spoil that. I'm just going to say this. Yeah, the FTC lost its preliminary injunction against
Mhm.
Activision Blizzard, which means that the 18th, 2 days, the acquisition is going to go through, which means from here forward that any court proceedings are going to deal with undoing the transaction instead of um, trying to stop it from happening in the first place.
Here's the thing. I know it sucks and I know it's scary, but at this point, I think we need to just let it happen.
Yeah. Um, basically I'll get to this point, but
Okay.
after seeing that, and of course I fucking called this, and I hated that I called this. Microsoft and the UK regulators agree to pause their Activision battle to negotiate. So they saw the United States capitulate, one of the biggest harbingers of capitalism, capitulate,
Hmm.
of course. And now I called it too. I said that the UK was just going to watch and see what we did. And the UK, I had a story like 2 episodes ago that was like, after the EU approved it, the UK was digging in their heels, but then the United States approved it, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Do you kind of feel the same way as I do about it?
It's just, I don't know. It's, I mean, I can kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like, do your own shit.
Yeah, I also feel like Activision is getting to the point to where, and Microsoft, like, they did threaten that, well, we'll just pull Activision out of the UK, like all their offices. So that means
That's a
jobs.
lot of lost jobs and revenue.
Exactly, and I don't think
Yeah.
the United Kingdom wants to be known right now for.
Fuck no.
So I feel like their hands are kind of fucking tied because the fact
Yeah.
that and I said it to Brandon when we were a couple episodes ago that the fact that Activision Blizzard and Microsoft have looked at the numbers and said, yeah, we could pull out of the UK and be fine.
hmm I think
That's
I think
scary.
the worst thing about this, like, it's fine, it's whatever. Like, pausing legal proceedings to make a deal with Microsoft, that's fine. I think the worst part about this was the fact that they dug in their heels and said they didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But then because the United States said FTC lost, now they're like, well, okay,
Yeah.
we'll work with you.
Right.
But it just shows, like, I don't know. If you want us to take a stance, take the fucking stance. Don't back down your word just because you see they lost or they won once and now you're like, well, now we're gonna lose like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. And I really got mad at the judge in this case because the judge said that like none of the arguments hold water and they're not worried about they believe that like Call of Duty will excuse me like consumer access will increase, which I could
What?
see that if Call of Duty ends up on Game Pass. That's the only way I could see that.
The only
Um,
way that doesn't make sense to me. The only way that consumer access would increase is if they put it on a different console.
right. Well, because they're claiming that like the judge is assuming already that Call of Duty will still stay on Sony, which I'm assuming it will too. With everything we talk about,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, how long? Could be for 10 years, 15 years, and then they could be like, all right, well, the next Call of Duty is exclusive to Xbox.
Can we also just listen? I know it's money and I know it's capitalism that's driving it, but why are we fighting about Call of Duty?
Because
I don't mean to offend anyone, but to me, Call of Duty's been kind of dead for the past several years.
I agree with you, but the problem is it's still a record breaker every year.
Oh, I
It's
mean, yeah, I get it.
like the casuals audience still fucking eats up. There's people that I know that's all they play every year. That's what they play. That's that's their game. That's like their Madden. That's their we can scoff at it all we want, but it just is what it is at this point. And when the judge said the exact
Here's what we do then, just to make it even, because I like to spread the wealth. Like, everyone should have an equal opportunity to play what they want to play. Sony wants to keep Call of Duty in perpetuity on the PlayStation console post merger. Allow Microsoft to have access to some of your studios. Allow Microsoft to have access to Insomniac to make Sunset Overdrive 2.
yeah, cut a licensing
Or
deal with
just,
them. Be like, hey Sony, we're
yeah,
gonna give you so much money to allow us to work with Insomniac. Would that I would take that if I was Sony. That's
like,
free money coming in, and then if the game bombs, it ain't hurting you, it's hurting Microsoft.
no. And bottom line, fuck exclusivity deals. Like, they're
Yes,
so dumb.
they are. They've been done for a long time. Like it's
Put Pokemon on PlayStation 5,
like
goddamn.
I'm
No, I'm just
upset
kidding.
with my friends that are on like how much we just gushed about 16. The fact that the Xbox fan base isn't getting 16 for a year.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Dumb. It's dumb. It hurts Square
Ugh.
Enix because that's more money that they have to wait to come in.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's two sides to that. Yeah, they're gonna have to wait for it, but at least it doesn't die off.
True. Yeah.
The longevity of the income is increased, but at the same time, like, that just shows that they're more concerned about their own pockets than they are like the player satisfaction and like us. Because listen, you released it on PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Game came out. If it sucked, and here's the thing: people are still kind of talking shit about it, saying it's one of the most polarizing games. That's automatically going to drive people not to pick it up for the Xbox.
Right. Yeah.
So regardless if you're trying to extend your revenue, you lost revenue.
Yep. You already lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was pretty much all the Microsoft news. The one thing, I mean, it sucks. I mean, it's
Already got heated.
yeah, I mean, the 18th is Tuesday. They lost the court case. It's going through. The only thing that might make me happy about this is that we might be able to be done talking about this because Like you
Here,
said,
here-
I'm exhausted with this. Like every
oh
episode
yeah.
we've done about this, it's been like the one thing that we've talked about since January, since I started this podcast, was this. And
Hmm.
the other thing that pisses me off is guess what it's gotten us to stop talking about? Activision Blizzard's shitty workplace practices. That just got swept under the rug.
Here's the thing. How this merger was massive, money
Biggest one in
wise. It
history.
cost them a lot of money.
Biggest one in history.
Um, and obviously this is a greed tactic. Um, let them do it.
At this point, yeah.
Let them do it. And if it fails, Microsoft should shot themselves in the foot.
Yep. And we've kind of seen the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause and like a little bit of saving grace with this whole thing is that Microsoft has mishandled its own franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Halo. Look at
Does
Xbox.
anyone remember the Platinum Games Scalebound that was supposed to come out at launch of Xbox One?
Mm-hmm.
Still butthurt about that
I'm
game.
really happy about that because you know what we got instead?
No, fuck you.
Nier Automata.
No.
That's what we got instead. But because Sony was willing to work with them. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm tired of talking about this. That's my thing. Is it's just like either let them
Listen.
do it now or don't let them do it. The fact that
I don't mean the segue. No, I'm just kidding. Continue.
this just is like I'm just like you said, this has been like the messiest divorce proceeding ever. And mommy and daddy are
Yeah.
fighting, and I'm tired of them fighting, and I'm about to go live with brother Nintendo.
Listen. Separate your fucking Beanie Babies 50-50 and we'll all be happy.
Right.
Fine.
I didn't look up this story. I forgot to look up the site. I sometimes when I'm doing this list, I'll accidentally skip over a story, but I forgot to put this one in here. But it's everywhere right now. Lord of the Rings Gollum Studio is no longer developing games and will now only publish, and this includes 25 layoffs. What we were just talking about with the Sony,
Mm-hmm.
it bankrupting a studio, they came out with one game,
Mm-hmm.
and now they are reduced to being a publishing only studio.
Also, there's just a garbage ass game.
Oh, it was a garbage game. Don't get me wrong.
It was rough.
We said this like I'm not a mass. I mean, I'm a casual Lord of the Rings fan. I like the movies, I read the books, but I'm not like like my buddy John. He's really into Lord of the Rings, and I asked him. I was like, and I said this on the podcast before. Who the hell was asking for a Gollum game?
No one.
Out of every character, that is a massive. You have so many characters. You could have done a Gandalf game. You could have done anything, and you picked.
Listen, the one story I've always wanted them to adapt is the Tales of the big S word. I'm stuttering really bad and I can't.
The
get it
one
out.
after Lord of the Rings or whatever.
The one after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Make that the game.
Yeah.
There's just tons of fucking mages and basically gods, and it's just like fuck Gollum.
Look at Shadow
I'm
of Mordor.
So tired of
Shadow of Mordor was a great game. Shadow of War
Yeah.
maybe was a lot of more of the same, but it still was a decent game. I'm also really surprised that nobody has still implemented the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system was such a good system from Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. But yeah, like so people have shown that they can make a good game with the Lord of the Rings franchise. But why Gollum?
I don't.
And then on top of that,
Listen,
it wasn't
listen,
even a
if you
good
wanna
one of
make-
those.
if you want to make a puzzle platformer, just make a fucking puzzle platformer.
Right.
Obviously, there's no real combat because Gollum doesn't really fight. He just kind of bitches in the corner.
It's a stealth game.
But yeah, it's a stealth game.
It's literally the
Make
story of him.
C3.
It's
There you go.
It's him escaping from Mordor before the beginning of Lord of the Rings. That is all the whole game is. It's him getting captured by them, getting interrogated to figure out where the ring is, and then him leaving.
Man, it's
But
making my butthole hurt right now.
taking that out of it, taking our feelings out of it, it sucks that this bankrupt a whole studio.
I like how you said take the feelings out of it. And you both and I just got riled up again.
Yep.
Yeah, fuck them for making a garbage ass game, trying to bankroll on a beloved franchise just to basically have 25 people lose their jobs.
Yep. And now, like I said, they're just publishing now. So, well, next story comes from, okay, this is a really weird website. Silicon. Oh, duh! I just can't read because my dyslexia is kicking in. SiliconAir.com. Um, the final two announcements at the Limited Games Run showcase. And I stood up when I saw this, and then you were
You
like, "You
did.
didn't
You
tell me
did.
this one." The Gex trilogy and Tomba are getting remasters. I'm excited because I love Tomba. Tomba got shit on. I understand. I'm a broken individual. I like some bad games sometimes. It's okay.
No, I mean, it's a fun, cute game.
I know. Just people don't like it, I guess. People like
Well,
threw a fit about it. And I'm like,
why?
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 And then Gex, I mean, my only worry
That's
about
Gex.
Gex is he probably won't age very well because he had a lot of jokes that were kind of,
Is it like making Conker's bad for a day today?
yeah, or making a new
Yeah.
Duke Nukem. Remember when they made Duke Nukem Forever?
Ooh, yeah.
Took
Yeah,
way
yeah,
too long to make, played like
yeah.
shit, and still used the same humor. Still tried to use the same humor from '95 or whatever.
No,
Um,
no.
that's my only worry with Gex. But the Gex trilogy
Mm-hmm.
will include Gex Enter the Gecko, or the collection will include Gex, Gex Enter the Gecko, and Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm still excited about those because I think I remember saying to you, but I didn't say it on the podcast. I'm going to say it here. My first thing that I got on PlayStation, I remember this vividly. This is when I got super deep into wrestling. I was like about 8 years old. My first two games that I got was I got my PlayStation 1 that came with, or my parents got me WCW versus the World,
Mm-hmm.
which is a bad wrestling game. I'll just say that. It had a huge roster, but it's a bad game. I played way too much of it though. But I had that, and then I had PlayStation Underground Demo Disc Volume 7. And that had Blasto, which is another, like, I say it harkens back from that day when Sony was trying to find its Sonic or Mario,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going with Blasto, Jersey Devil, Gex, Tomba, and Crash. Those are the five because they weren't
Mm-hmm.
sure which one was going to stick. Oh, and Spyro. You can throw Spyro in there because Spyro came a little bit later, but at the time, those were the ones. Um, and we obviously know that kind of Crash kind of won out on that, which
Yeah.
will be really weird. Kind of going backtracking a little bit. Activision owns Crash. How fucking weird will that be if Crash becomes an Xbox exclusive?
Ooh.
That breaks my brain. Anyway,
Wait, does Activision own Toys for Bob?
I think so.
So then they also own Spyro.
They do. So that,
Because Toys for Bob did the remakes for that as well.
yeah. So now we can see Spyro and the next Spyro or Crash or remaster those only on Xbox. Anyway, but those are the big ones, and I remember playing so much Gex. Oh, did I say Jersey Devil?
You did. You did.
Okay,
You
I did.
did.
I personally really want Tomba and Jersey Devil were like my top two. Jersey Devil was, I don't know if you've ever played it, but it was this little like purple dude that had like it basically looked like a purple leotard that looked very similar
Mm-hmm.
to the superhero or anti-hero the Phantom,
Okay.
but it had like little like heartless style antennas coming off it that looked like devil horns, and he could glide with these little wings. And it was a
Okay.
platformer, and it was set usually on like Devil's Night. So like you were like basically a lot of the bad guys were like jack-o'-lanterns that would come to life, and it would start like outside of like this it started like outside of this creepy museum. Everything had this like creepiest kind of like cartoony creepy aesthetic. um
Mm.
that's one that I would like to see. But I'm super excited we're getting Tomba. Like, how much of Tomba did you play as a kid?
I don't remember a whole lot just because it was like my cousin owned it,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'd just go over and play it. And at the time, I was like really garbage at I mean, who wasn't? But like I was garbage at video games, so I never could figure out how to get far in games. So I maybe played the beginning and then like the next section, but I never got past that next section.
Yeah, I'm just excited to play farther than I did in the demo.
Yeah. You know, I had a thought about this
Yeah,
because I went home that day after we had the talk about these games, and I just realized. So they're remaking and re-releasing a lot of the old like PS1 titles. One, why wasn't these on the PlayStation Mini that came out a few years
preach.
ago? Answer to my personal headcanon answer to that, because they were already planning on making the re-releases and the HD remakes. That's fine. Great. Okay. Second question, why make the PlayStation Mini? You lost money.
Well, statistically too, out of all those mini consoles that came out, the PS2 one did, or the PlayStation 1 did the worst.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but they released a lot of the PAL versions of the PlayStation
Hmm.
games, which if you guys don't know what that is, there was a monitor standard back in the day. America's was 60, Europe's was 50. So like
Hmm.
Tekken on that PlayStation was the PAL version, so it played sluggish, like slower, and you don't
Ooh.
want that for Tekken. You don't.
I just remember wanting that console because I was really excited.
Right.
And then seeing it like a week after launch and seeing it for like 10, $20 at GameStop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Next couple stories. I know you'll be excited about this one.
Hmm.
Um. EA's new studio Cliffhanger Games announces an upcoming title based on the Marvel's Black Panther. Now, to reiterate, there is another Black Panther and Captain America game in development.
Hmm.
Well, I can't remember who's doing it. This one is going to star. That one is going to star T'Chaka, because it's set back in the 40s. It's
Oh,
set
okay,
during that
okay.
story. I believe there's a comic
Yeah.
that had both basically fighting
Hmm.
Nazis. So
Yeah.
this is not that same game. This is a straight standalone Black Panther game, and I bet you it's probably gonna be T'Challa, in this one.
Okay.
Um,
I would
and
even take his son.
yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Um, well, I mean, superhero games are always fun. I love them. They can also be very hit or miss. I think Black Panther could be easily one of the greatest. Not, I don't want to say greatest, but it'd definitely be an amazing um superhero video game. My only fear is that video games are slowly going to start becoming how we're feeling with the movies and getting slightly bogged down by um superhero video games because we have Spider-Man 2, the Wolverine game still being made, and now this, and we've already just
Right,
saw a bunch of superhero games that basically failed,
right.
like Marvel's Avengers and stuff like that. But I think this game could be one wholly unique from the rest of them, uh, and I think that that could give it legs to stand on and be an amazing game.
The thing that got me excited was I really liked that they said that it was going to actually take place in Wakanda.
And see, that's why I think it has legs.
That was the one thing. When at first when they were
Have
like,
it
"Go ahead."
Oh, I was just gonna say, have it in a society that basically skipped the Black Crusades and was allowed to like continue innovating and growing to the point where modern day New York is prehistoric compared to Wakanda.
Exactly.
That could make it unique to me.
Just like, okay, so I don't remember if you played back in the day when they did like a slew of superhero games, like Spider-Man games and like the Hulk games. Like I think on the
Yeah.
Xbox 360, I remember playing the Venom and the Hulk games, or it was a
Okay.
and how you could just like, because obviously you can't swing with those characters, but how they could
Hmm.
just like climb up skyscrapers. I want that
Yeah.
in Wakanda with Black Panther.
Give me
That's
that. Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Um, and like you said, don't put it in New York. Don't put it like
No.
we've seen. Leave that for Spider Man. That works great for
E-
Spider
Even
Man.
if even if it gives the ability to leave Wakanda, keep it in Africa.
Yeah,
Keep it to where I explore, and like even if there's like a quest line where it's just bare bones tracking down poachers and protecting endangered and wild animals, keep it in Africa.
yeah, for sure. Or
Yeah.
or if you want to go somewhere else, at least make it so you can keep going back to Wakanda. Like
Oh
make it
yeah.
like make that like an open world hub.
Hmm.
Like if you have to go do other things, like yeah, that just I originally when they first said it, I was like kind of like because you know how I am. I'm very superhero fatigued at this point. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But when they said that it was going to be set in Wakanda, that like I said, that changed my mind a little bit. I was like, ah,
Hmm.
okay. Um,
Just give me like the mainstay villains that keep it grounded in Wakanda. Give me Claw. Give me M'Baku was a villain at one point. I know MCU doesn't really show him in a villain light, but he was a villain. Give me Killmonger. Give me like, oh shoot, there's tons of them and I can't remember. Like Eve. Ooh. Sorry, I just give me a little bit of where they cross with. Oh, I just the plot of basically Black Panther 2, where they cross with the Atlantean. It's not really Atlanteans.
I get what you're
Like
saying though.
Namor.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me that, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I
Oh, and
don't
by
need
the way,
anything else.
this came directly from Marvel.com. I've stopped shouting out my
Oh
sources, but yeah, this was directly from Marvel.com. So
yeah.
it's a pretty sure thing. Yeah, though I totally agree with you. I just want different. I want different.
Mm-hmm.
Don't don't tread the same stuff that the MCU has been treading. Don't don't
No.
give us really. Well, I mean, we kind of talked about this at work, but don't really give me another origin story. Or if you give me another origin story, just have it be a flashback and a tutorial. Like
Yeah.
we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. A little bit more on the EA news. Along with this comes from Video Games Chronicle. EA Sports announced UFC 5 with a full reveal coming in September. Um, are you really that big of a UFC game fan? I didn't think so, but I just kind of threw this in there. I played 1 and 2 and really liked them. I've never really been that big of a UFC guy either. I've always,
Okay.
you know me. I like my combat sports to be predetermined
Mm.
and have a lot of drama involved. Um, but I did play those games. I really liked the first 2, especially 2, because 2 introduced Pride back when Pride was
Mhm.
a thing, and I actually liked Pride because Pride was a little bit more dangerous, and I actually liked how the UFC originally started. I
Mhm.
was saying this at work on one of my walks with somebody else, that um back when the UFC started, there was no weight class. There were no, like, you could have an 80-pound 90-year-old dude fight a 20-year-old 300-pound dude. And and MMA has gotten really boring now cuz it's just
Okay.
MMA. When UFC started, you had like a Shaolin monk against a karate master. Who's the better fighter? Let's throw him in a cage and
Right.
find out. You had a
Mhm.
wrestler, like a Greco-Roman old school wrestler against a Brazilian jiu-jitsu master.
Mhm.
And one dude is, I want to see an 80-pound 90-year-old Shaolin monk beat the brakes off of somebody 3 times his size. That's what I want to see.
I'd pay money for that.
That was way more interesting back in the day.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was my UFC tangent. Now it's gotten soft. I suppose it's safer now. I suppose it's and also when UFC started, it was bare knuckle. There were
Yeah.
no gloves or anything.
Yeah.
So, I get it. It's safer. CT is a real thing, but that's my UFC. I love that. Um, I don't know though. I It's been a while since I've seen one of these. Like I said, I liked the first 2. 3 was okay. 4 was yikes.
Mhm.
But I'm relatively excited, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I'll jump on it right away, but hey, there's a demo. I'll download that demo. At least
No,
check it out.
we'll
Um,
check it out with you.
and then the last little one comes from Insider Gaming, and it's kind of the last of the EA block here. Respawn has started development on its next Star Wars Jedi game. Um, that doesn't really surprise me. What do you think?
No.
I mean,
Those games are awesome.
you played Jedi Survivor. I only played the first one,
Yeah.
so
Uh, definitely, I would probably say Jedi Survivor is probably better than Fallen Order.
mhm.
Um, the only weird thing, and this is the crux with Star Wars, and it's why I'm starting to get a little worried. Um, where they have the story placed is kind of finite,
Okay,
in
that's
a
what I was about to
sense.
ask you. Is like, did they end it in a place that
It's no, they
they
definitely
could keep
ended to where they
going?
could have. They definitely ended to where they could keep going. The only downside that I see is like, don't get me wrong, you could have like an infinite amount of stories at any timeline in the Star Wars universe. The downside for me is that once you start evolving it to where it cross paths with the Empire and Darth Vader, to me that becomes finite now, because the goal is always now it has to butt up to the beginning of A New Hope, and it can never expand.
Right.
Um, I mean, sure, yeah, you can expand, but what I'm meaning is like, because, and I mean, sure. Let me backtrack a little bit. You can do whatever the fuck you want. The downside is that you're gonna have fans on your ass.
Right.
I don't care if you change the story of what's going on in the background while Luke is slowly coming up and becoming a Jedi. If you want to change the background story to have Cal Kestis doing something super fun, great. I don't care. Change it. To me, that doesn't matter. But I can see tons, hundreds, if not millions of people throwing a fit about it. And so that's why I say your story is finite. Darth Vader plays a very I don't want to say big, but he played a part in the beginning or in the first one. He plays an equally same amount of like importance of a role in the second one. And I think you were there for that one. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
were because I was getting angry.
Yep.
Yeah. And so
Made for
like,
great content.
um, and so like it could be fun. Don't continue after this one though.
Okay, that is the one thing they did say that they always planned, and it made me happy that they actually came out and said this. Respawn always planned on this being a trilogy and then taking a break.
Okay, good.
So
Because
yeah,
where it is at now, and this is also the weird part. Every Star Wars story ends the same way, where the main Force using hero goes, okay, I want to go start the next school to create the new string of Jedi. But then we never see it
right,
because we start either a new trilogy or it butts up to an already existing trilogy where it doesn't exist.
right,
That's what Cal Kestis' journey is he wants to bring back the power of the Force and like of the Jedi. And if you know who the High Republic is, like the story of High Republic in Star Wars, that the new game deals a lot with it. And I like how they had it blended, and so Cal Kestis was like, "Okay, we're going to use the old teachings of the High Republic, bring them in, and then we're going to create a new school, kind of out of the way of the Empire and the rest of the story, so it could lead in a different direction to where it doesn't cross paths anymore with what will become A New Hope. But stop trying to make the school.
yeah. It
Luke
all,
tried it,
yeah,
and then we got the new trilogy, and it didn't work. Ray tried it, or is going to try it, but then she didn't. She just went off to Tatooine and buried her lightsabers.
yeah,
Now Cal Kestis is going to do it, but we know what happens later because we get Vader
right,
and then Luke.
yeah.
So
Um, I just hope, and this is a personal gripe, and this is a gripe that I have with the first game, and I know the person who plays him, I can't remember his name, is a better actor than what they do. They got to give that boy some better direction, because
Cameron Monaghan.
yeah, I don't know how he's in the second one, but I remember in the first one, I felt like Cal Kestis was the most boring fucking character I've ever met.
Oh, a lot less of a 2x4 blank.
Yeah. I and
The
I feel like I made that joke too, and I've said this multiple times and everywhere, whether it's been this podcast, that when you open up that first menu in Star Wars Jedi
yeah.
Fallen Order, where it said Cal and then it had lightsaber, I literally
Mm-hmm.
thought when like when I opened up, I was like, they did not name this motherfucker Cal Lightsaber, did they? And now forever to me, because he's so bland as a character, at least in that first one, he will forever be
Mm-hmm.
Cal Lightsaber to me. Um,
The second one does give a little bit more of emotion to him.
okay.
He gains a love interest. Well, I guess he kind of had it in the first one slash the interim book between the two. But the love interest
Wait,
blooms in
there's a
there.
book in the middle of them?
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm out. No, wait, I'm not.
um. There is like he deals a lot with like trying to figure out if the Jedi way of the Force is good or evil. He kind of also starts leaning a little bit into the Sith side of it and does some pretty not savory Jedi shit.
Yeah,
And so he has a lot more emotion. So it definitely does better than the first one, and
I
I will give
like
it
that
props
because
that
I've always
it
been
does
a
better.
person that has said, are the Jedi really good or are they just a different side? Because, like, when you watch, like, the Obi-Wan show, like, you
Hmm.
find out, like, Obi-Wan is basically, like, kidnapped. Like,
Yeah.
because that's basically what the Jedi did. If they found that you were Force sensitive, they just took you. They didn't,
Hmm.
like, ask your parents or anything. Like, they just took you. That's real
No,
fucked up.
Qui-Gon tried to give Shmi some money.
Yeah, that he's the
Just
one.
kidding. Just kidding.
He's the
Yeah.
one. And
Yeah.
that's because Qui-Gon's awesome.
No, but not. Well, I guess kind of spoilery. Spoiler if you're wanting to play the game. He has nightmares towards the end of the game about like turning into the Sith. And then eventually he actually like gives into it. Um,
Wow.
and there's an entire segment where he
I like
gets
that.
really pissed off, and like he bleeds his lightsaber red, and then like you kind of in a way, it's kind of like there's like a fog that goes over you, and you go through this entire segment full of like Empire goons and drones and shit, and you just mow down everyone, and that's it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess we'll just have to like I said, super early on in development, they just said, "Hey, we're working on it." There's no trailer, no screenshots, no nothing. They just said, "Hey, don't worry,
I'm
it's
sure
coming."
it's like beginnings.
Yes,
Don't
yeah,
have anything yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this next little chunk is a Sega block. We had a FTC block, we've had an EA block, and now we've got a Sega block. And this
Hmm.
has all sorts of up and downs for me. This first one comes from decrypt.co. Thank you for
I think you
great.
could put the first and second one together.
I am putting the kind of putting the first. I
Okay.
just had to
Okay.
find
Okay.
two separate stories.
Yeah.
Basically, Sega COO Shuji Utsumi, I believe is how you pronounce it, says that the gaming giant is pulling back on its blockchain games, calling play to earn games boring, straight up. Um, so basically, what he is basically saying, like all the like their big people like Sonic, like their big major heavy hitters, they ain't gonna be doing no blockchain or crypto things with it.
Thank Christ.
Thank Christ.
Thank
However,
Christ. Yeah. Yeah.
seconds
I'm
later,
relieved.
from GameDeveloper.com, literally within a week, Sega greenlights blockchain game based on immensely popular franchise. So one step forward, two steps back.
To me, this sounds more of like the CEO doesn't want to do it
Or the COO
because he
doesn't want
knows
to do it, but the
the COO doesn't want to
CEO
do it.
doesn't want to do it.
What I don't even say, I would say both of them don't want to do it because they care more about like what the players want. Because fuck, we don't want blockchain games, but what investors want is money, and you know what makes
Mm-hmm.
them money? Pay to win
Mm-hmm.
game.
I'm gonna say it before, I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. How many times do we have to bully people on Twitter to say we don't want this shit? We
It's like that
bullied Square
SpongeBob.
Enix to drop it. We have bullied Ubisoft to start dropping it. What the who in the year of our Lord 2023 is saying, you know what's a good idea? NFTs, blockchain.
um, it's like that SpongeBob episode where turning away. How many times do I have to tell you, old man?
Exactly. It's kind of going
Yeah.
back to a point that I wanted to bring up with the judge in the FTC case. I forgot to bring up this point, but it's like it just goes to show you that this judge still doesn't understand the video game business.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to show you that these CEOs and investors and bigwigs don't understand it either.
I don't mean to get political for a second.
Oh, you can get political.
Oh, I'm gonna very loosely. I'm not gonna get deep into it, but like that's why I say let fucking like millennials and Gen Xers start holding positions of power,
Ooh, we could.
because then we can proceed over
Mm-hmm.
these. Because that's what we grew up on. These these boomer people who like didn't grow up on it, boomer and silent generation who are in these position of power, they didn't grow up with
No,
fucking
they don't
video games.
understand
They're
it.
the ones causing the satanic scares of the 80s.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
These were the guys who were trying to say that Mortal Kombat was causing kids to go fight and like hurt
Ugh.
people. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
I didn't know Cain and Abel were playable in Mortal Kombat. But I digress.
And then last story, which is a good story out of the Sega camp. Sega of America workers win their union vote. Allied Employees Guild improving Sega win by overwhelming majority. I believe it was like a 90. Yep, right here. According to Polygon, 117 votes were counted. 91 voted for the union. 26 voted against. So it
Good.
overwhelmingly won.
Good.
This union will span several different departments, including marketing, games as service, localization, product development, and quality assurance. The Irvine office, which opened in 2022, houses up to 235 workers. With this win, Aegis CWA is the first video game industry union at a major company that spans multiple departments, and it also makes it the fifth union in the games industry, and also makes it now the largest because it spans multiple departments. Bravo. Bravo.
Oh, I totally. Did you miss what Final Corgi said? I
Oh.
just saw it. I
Oh, yep.
can't wait for the DLC that lowers the difficulty on FromSoft games.
I want that. I'm a baby.
I
um,
want the difficulty.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like quote. This comes from let's see. I want to get his name right. Angel Gomez. It could be Angel or Angel. Angel. We'll see. Um, we are overjoyed to celebrate our union's election win as members of Aegis CWA. From the start of this campaign, it has been clear that we care deeply about our work at Sega. Now, through our union, we'll be able to protect parts of our jobs we love and strengthen benefits, pay, and job stability to all workers. Together, we can build an even better Sega. We hope our victory today is an inspiration to other workers across the gaming industry. You hear that? Together, we can raise standards for all workers across this industry.
Yeah. I can't support that enough. Like, I mean, you know my stances on what's currently going on right now with the writers and the SAG Guild.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could make that entire episode itself, but yeah, no, get your fucking bag, dude.
Get your
Like,
bag, and I don't know,
live
treat
a
people
live a
fucking
life.
treat people fucking right, just
Yeah,
straight up. Like your job,
have people make a livable wage for
a
once.
livable wage, and don't make it their entire life. Like you hear so many times about like these death marches before games releases where people are working 100-hour work weeks, not getting paid overtime, and not getting any holiday pay, not getting anything, and then they're canned afterwards because they're like, well, we got to downsize because we don't have anything working on.
We underperformed.
Oh yeah, we underperformed even though Activision, we've had the best year ever, lays off everybody. Like
Yeah.
but yeah. I hope this just
Anyway, let's get to even better news though.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like this one. I like this next one a lot.
Yuji Naka, he been sentenced officially.
Fuck yes.
Officially. He originally they said that he was going to get 2 years in prison. He's not. He has to pay a 1.2 or the equivalent because they did the conversion for us on Video Games Chronicle. He has to pay a $1.2 million fine, and he has a suspended prison sentence for insider trading, which Yuji Naka basically admitted in court. He's like, "Oh yeah, I definitely did that." He didn't make no bones about it. And if he does not pay the 107, here the actual total is 173 million yen. If he does not pay that, then he going to prison. Straight up. I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, you probably think the same thing as I am.
Fucking yeah. Go rot in hell, man.
Yeah, creator Sonic finally getting charged for his crimes.
Get your fucking greed out of your ass. And
I know. And the fact that he's just like paying a $1.2 million fine, like, okay, cool, means he made a fucking killing.
He's gonna do it again.
Yeah.
He's gonna do it again.
Yeah. Like slap on the fucking wrist, but
yeah.
Next story, and this comes right from GameHistory.org, and this is kind of scary to think about. 87% of classic video games released in the United States are critically endangered. This basically means, it says just 13% of video games history is being represented in the current marketplace. In fact, no period of video game history defined in this study even cracked 20% representation.
No, I mean, I think I saw that like, out of all PS2, highest selling console of all time, only 12% of its game catalog is accountable right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to shout out Jeff Gerstmann on this because he was the one who was able to get the actual number. I don't know where he got it from, but I believe he said Neo Geo games total 47. And that does not mean 47 different games. I mean, there's about 47 copies of Neo Geo games in the wild. That's it.
Yeah.
Of working Neo Geo games. Which I know Neo Geo wasn't as big of a console as the others, but that's part of video game history. And another part is like you got a lot of these that are like in the hands of collectors. So like you just, and Nintendo ain't putting out their shit like you got some, but like Where's ET for the Atari 2600? I
Oh,
have a
shut up.
copy of that.
It's in your. Yeah, I was gonna say it's in your closet.
But where is that? Like, where? Like, there's so much like preservation that's just not happening, and this doesn't
I think
happen.
that's one of the ones that's saved though.
Yeah, I think it
I'm pretty
is.
sure it's saved. I mean, only because like, I mean, I follow a good chunk of the Video Game History Foundation, and like there's another one I can't remember what it is, but just the preservation that these guys do is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Super
I
important.
can't stress I can't stress enough. Buy physical copies. I know, like, trust me, I can vouch for myself that I'm definitely one of those people that likes to have digital downloads, so I can just switch between games. I don't have to get up, switch disc or anything. But the downside
This.
is this: they have the power to take it away if you buy digital. And I mean, as you can see with like what happened with 3DS and Wii U earlier this year, they took it all away and it's
And it's
gone.
gone. Yeah.
The good thing I liked about that is one of like the coolest guys that I like to watch on YouTube, the completionist, um, set out on his own journey to buy every single game he possibly could. And what and sure, yeah, a lot of people threw fits at him because they're like, "Oh, why did you throw all that money away?" He didn't. He bought all those games and then he donated the consoles and the hard drives to the Video Game History Foundation so
Yeah.
they could catalog it and save it.
Fucking champ. Hero.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he spent his own money too, just so the video game
Sort of.
yeah. Um
He took a lot of brand deals.
hey, though, we need that though. And like this doesn't happen with music. This doesn't happen with film. This doesn't happen with books.
No, it does.
Well, to an extent. Not as bad.
I mean that's why a lot of people are pushing right now to buy physical copies of like movies and TV shows because streaming services have power to just
True.
take it away from you,
True.
and then you will never be able to watch it again. Like my biggest thing right now is I've always wanted to watch or finish Naruto Shippuden. I am a dub watcher, and like that creates a lot of limitations for me, and no one has the entire Shippuden out for to watch on dub.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking of, and this was another point brought up by Jeff Gersman, shout out. He said that like you go buy a book, even if it's old as shit, it's a book. It still works.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
buy a cartridge game, you got a 50-50 shot of it working or not working. Disc games are a little bit better in longevity's sake, but even those, same thing. So yeah, I hope this gets people caring a little bit more, because the fact that is a scary number that a huge hole that we just don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Next small story. We're gonna kind of bang through these last few here. You can now run Xbox emulators on the Xbox, or emulators on the Xbox console again. And this comes from Video Games Chronicle. I know I said a few months ago that you could run emulators in God, what was that other mode? Developer mode, but not in retail mode. It looks like now they've gone back to where you can do that again.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I don't. It's cool with me. Emulation is not illegal. People like to tell you it is, but it's not. It's the pirating of the games that's where it gets sticky. But creating an emulator is not an illegal act. And especially with what we just talked about, that work is super fucking important now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that's, I mean, I've emulated before. I've emulated a lot of like Game Boy and DS games on my computer. And it's just I mean, it goes in hand with the game preservation.
Exactly.
Like, you're gonna have to, if people want to play it, they gotta play it somehow. And the downside is these big name companies, Nintendo, don't want them to exist.
Yeah, Nintendo's the worst perpetrator of shutting down.
I don't know how many times I've seen people, because I also follow a lot of like Pokemon modding communities. I don't know how many times I've seen tons of them just get cease and desist letters.
Yeah, all the time. And,
oh yeah,
yeah. So cool, good on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as it doesn't lead to like people being shitty about it, and I mean, I'm sure it will. There, but people
don't gatekeep.
Yeah, don't gatekeep, and just yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next story, the Borderlands movie seems in trouble, and this comes from Game Rant.
I was interested in this one.
Basically, from what the crux of the article was, it wrapped filming in 2021,
Yeah.
and because they've been like swapping directors like crazy, like it still has no confirmed release date. That
Yeah, I mean, I followed this one for the longest time just because like I love movies. Um, and then it just dropped off the face of the earth because like the studio kind of gave up on it.
yeah, and apparently like they have, and they're not saying it's done. It's still being kicked in the can, kicked out, but like
Ooh,
it's done. Edit
yeah,
it, and get it out the door.
yeah.
I mean that's
You
easier
know
said
what?
than
You know
done as
what?
somebody who's doesn't make movies, but
You know what I'm afraid. You know what I'm afraid of with this one though. It's gonna go the route of Batgirl. It's gonna be a tax write-off.
yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Also, my worry with Borderlands is I think Borderlands humor hasn't aged very well either in some instances. That's why I wasn't a huge fan of Borderlands 3. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was very much 2010s humor in 2020. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I can see that.
I could totally see that happening too. That this movie gets kicked down so far that by the time it does get released, it's just no one's gonna give a shit.
Yeah.
Next story from your gamer. These are like I said, these last two are pretty small. Capcom says it's discussing the future of unnumbered Resident Evil games like Code Veronica. I love Code Veronica. Sorry. Um, that was my big thing for the while. And they said during a general shareholder Q&A that they are looking at providing high-end visual remakes of, or they aren't looking at providing for only the main numbered ones. They are definitely curious about possibly doing like the Code Veronicas, your Dead God, what were the other ones? Zero Mission, um Umbrella
This is all you.
Chronicles. Yeah. I yeah, I wish I had this is the one time I wish I had Brandon on it cuz he's the bigger Resident Evil guy than even me.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Code Veronica. Code Veronica was a
Mm-hmm.
real weird one. That was the one that came out on Dreamcast, and then it came out on PS2 as Code Veronica X. Um, and it is a very weird one. It does have a main antagonist who cross dresses as a sister. And it can be a little the way that he goes about it is a little but that character is also really great at the time. There's this joke that from this old video game parody video that they made fun of it. There's a scene in Code Veronica where he's sniping at you, but he's poorly sniping at you. So the parody video, he goes, "Now I will take my sniper and miss." So I don't know. That was just a stupid game. I never actually beat Code Veronica because there's a point where you're on a plane with a tyrant, and if you don't have the right items, you won't beat him, and that's where I got stuck. But it was still a
That's
good
shit.
game. But that's cool that they're at least thinking about the non-numbered Resident Evils. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this next story, Eurogamer, last three here. We got three left. The Last of Us Part 2 composer lets slip that a new edition is in the pipeline. The Last of Us composer Gustavo Santaolalla, I'm probably butchering that name and I apologize, basically said in new editions you can make play certain themes. He said additions. And that led people to basically speculate that there is a PS5 version of The Last of Us Part 2 coming. Um, I don't know. As somebody who's only played the first one, what do you think?
I want it.
You want it?
Only hey, listen, you know my stance on this. I want it because I want to experience the game.
Mm-hmm.
I love the first one. I love the show, and I want to play part two before season two comes out, which I know we're a few years out,
Mm-hmm.
if not several years out because of what's going on right now. But yeah, I just want to. I want to give my own judgment of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and so if they remake it to a PS5 version like they did The Last of Us, I'll buy it.
Yeah. And even as someone who didn't like the way the story went, because that is all my complaints of like it still plays fucking phenomenal. It looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But even as someone who kind of poo-poos the story a little bit, I think we should get a PS5 version. You got part one on PS5 already. Close the
Yeah,
loop. Might as
yeah.
well. Now my only worry about this is does this further delay the Last of Us multiplayer game? Yeah, probably. Um, But
I mean, you told me I told you this week about the downside of The Last of Us.
did you? Or did I just
Yeah,
forget it?
about how they originally were making a Jack 4,
Oh yeah. The
but then
Jack
they
4.
switched gears and made The Last of Us with the
Yeah. I'm hoping. I'm hoping after Last of Us Part 3, because they are announced that they're working on a Part 3, I hope
hmm
they take a break from Last of Us, really. That was my feelings about Uncharted, because I know this is a very unpopular opinion. I don't like Uncharted. Um,
never played them.
well, okay, my problem is I played The Last of Us Part 1 first, and then I played Uncharted, and if you play it in
hmm
that order, it's like going backwards,
Yeah.
in their storytelling and in their gameplay.
hmm
But I mean, I don't know. That does. I mean, I am not surprised that they're doing a PS5 version of Last of Us Part 2. That
Yeah.
is one of the best-selling franchises. The show did great. They want to capitalize on that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know. This one kind of a downer. We were kind of making fun of it 2 episodes ago about where the fuck is Beyond Good and Evil 1 and 2 or Beyond Good and Evil 2. Well, the creative director passed away at age 40. Emile Morel. Um, I'm trying to see what year he worked on Rayman Legends. He was a big person behind that. Was working on the original Beyond Good and Evil. Um, so yeah, kind of sad. He was really young too. He only died at 40. Um, so yeah, that. Now I feel bad for being an asshole about Beyond Good and Evil 1 or Beyond Good and
I
Evil
was gonna
2.
say, I think you have the ability to finally say that you made it because now you are calling celebrity deaths.
I know, right? Like, yeah. And then the very last story here, this is kind of a little touching thing because back in the 360 days, I remember this dude a lot. Major Nelson, Larry here, Xbox Director of Programming, and long-standing spokesperson for Microsoft Gaming Business, has announced he is leaving the company after 22 years. He wrote on Twitter, "After 20 incredible years, I have decided to take a step back and work on the next chapter of my career. As I take a moment to think about all we have done together, I want to thank the millions of gamers around the world who have included me as a part of their lives. Also, thanks to the Xbox team members for trusting me to have a direct dialogue with our customers. The future is bright for Xbox as a gamer, and I'm excited to see the evolution." I threw this in here because I just remember, like, because I was a 360 guy, because I usually only own one of the big two consoles, and because the PlayStation 3 launched at $600 I ended up getting the Xbox 360 that generation. And I remember, going on to Xbox Live and seeing those like minute with Major Nelson all the time on the front page and
hmm
watching his videos, and his face became honestly more synonymous than like Bill Spencer's face for a while.
For me, it's Phil Spencer.
Yeah, I
If
could
I
see.
think of Xbox, I see Phil Spencer's face.
Yeah. And I was like, when I got my 360, I was like 19, maybe 18.
hmm
So I was definitely like young adult then.
Oh, I
And
was a wee lad.
he was a wee
Mm,
lad. But I
absolutely
just
lad.
remember like anytime there was something new news on the Xbox front, I would expect to see Major Nelson's face right there. He even went by
Mm.
his gamer tag, Major Nelson, making him feel like he was one of us. Um, and it's just, he's been there for a while. Sad to see him go, but good for him. It's time for him to move on. He's been doing it for a long time. Nobody likes working on the same thing forever. Um, yeah, so I wish him all the best of luck in his future endeavors,
Mhm,
and he will be
mhm.
missed. Um,
Yeah.
and that was all I got. This is a meaty episode. We almost hit the two. We almost hit 5-star runtimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I saw that.
so with that, would you got anything that you want to plug for this week that coming up?
I mean, we're just probably going to be playing some more 16 this week. I might play some more Only Up if you guys want to check that out with me. But that's it. That's
Yeah.
really it.
I'm hoping. I mean, for the foreseeable future, I'm gonna just be playing Final Fantasy 1 on stream until
hmm
the next big release for me comes out. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. And that's a podcast. You can find us at wow, I haven't done this in a bit, on Twitter and Facebook. Or wow, Twitter and Facebook. I'm an idiot.
Oh,
Twitter
wow.
and YouTube.
Here, I got this for you, man. I got this for you. Ready?
Yeah.
And you can find us at Twitter and YouTube at Black Box Signal.
at _Black Box Signal.
Black
'Cause
Box.
somebody took Black Box Signal from me. And then you can find us at Twitch at /Black Box Signal. Where can they find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me at Darius Prime on Twitch. I usually live usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. Try to do weekends, but the weekends are a little hard. And then you can find me on Twitter at Darius Prime VOTTV.
And you can find me at @chasing_chase on Twitter. You cannot find me on Facebook after today because I'm setting that bitch on fucking fire. And then you can follow me. I really am. I downloaded all my data. It's not getting deactivated. I'm deleting the bitch.
Oof.
Yeah. And then you can find me at Chasing Chase TV on Twitch. As always, we'll be back next week. And until then, stay safe, comrades.
Thanks.